Hi, this is Taritoys. Today, we will talk about a type of knitting seam called the kitch-under stitch or grafting. The kitch-under stitch is used to create an invisible horizontal seam. This stitch joins two rows of live stitches together. Simply put, we are creating an additional row between two pieces with live stitches. You will need a yarn that is at least 4 times the length of the future seam. This can be the yarn left over from knitting one of the pieces or a separate yarn, depending on the project. You will also need a needle with a blunt tip and a large eye, a tapestry needle. Place the 2 pieces wrong sides together. The piece with the yarn you will use for the seam should be closer to you, and the other piece behind it. Insert the needle into the first stitch on the back needle as if to purl, and slip the stitch off the needle. Insert the needle into the first stitch on the back needle as if to knit. Leave the stitch on the needle, pull the thread out. Insert the needle into the first stitch on the front needle as if to knit, and slip it off the needle. Insert the needle into the first stitch on the front needle as if to purl. Leave the stitch on the needle, pull the thread out. The algorithm is easy to remember if you imagine that there is a C between the 2 pieces. Each time, we first dive into this C from one shore. Then we resurface back on that shore. Then dive from the other shore. And resurface back. And so on, dive from the back needle. Resurface on the back needle. Dive from the front needle. Resurface on the front needle. Based on experience, I recommend not tightening the yarn in the newly created stitches immediately. It's better to do this in steps. Create 6 to 8 stitches, then distribute the seam yarn evenly, according to your knitting tension. Then do the same with the next group of stitches. I think we can already distribute some of the seam stitches. Start with the last stitch of the previous row. Then the first stitch of the seam, and so on. Make sure the tension of the seam stitches matches your knitting tension. It is important for the stitches to be identical throughout the entire piece. When the stitches in this section are evened out, you can move on to the next section. The pieces can also be placed on a horizontal surface if it's more convenient. Additionally, the stitches can be literally live and not on needles. This makes it harder to control the direction of the stitches and their presence in the row, but with sufficient experience, this method can sometimes be used. Even out the stitches. And continue until the end of the row. When there is 1 stitch left on each needle, insert the needle into the stitch on the back needle, as if to purl, slip it off the needle, pull the thread out, then into the stitch on the front needle, as if to knit, slip it off the needle, and pull the thread out. And distribute the remaining stitches. For more information about knitting seams and other knitting techniques, visit Taritoys.com. You can also find handmade toys and their patterns on Taritoys.com, Links are in the video description. Enjoy your knitting!